All right, let's get this thing rolling. It's a short week. We got a lot of preparation work to do. Obviously, coming off a road game that went late, and a lot of things to look at, a lot of things we can grow from, and use that first game as an experience to grow forward throughout the course of what is going to be a season of a lot of opportunities as long as we continue to grow. I know that the team did an awesome job coming back right from the jump, even though we got back early on Sunday morning and flipped around and came back yesterday and got some good work, and we were able to really take a deep dive into some things and take a look at some really simple things that we can do a much better job of, and especially when you're playing a very good team like that we must be able to do. And it really comes down to just trusting our preparation and our training and really executing the things that we executed in practice. And that starts with, obviously, me and being able to create that confidence and those habits that are going to be able to be who we are on game day. So we've obviously been able to evaluate. We had a great practice this morning. The guys showed back up here this morning with a bunch of energy, and they understand what our next challenge is. They understand that it's a conference game on the road on a short week, and they showed up with that urgency today. And it was fun to get back out on the field and get to work. I'm really proud for the guys of how they flipped the switch and jumped back out there today. We will, obviously update you guys on Austin Bolt. He'll be out for the remainder of the season, as he had a lower leg injury that needed to get fixed. And so we're praying for him and his recovery, and obviously really we feel for him because of all the hard work that he put in and the things that he's done over the course of the off season to put himself in the position he was. But we're proud of him, and we will obviously continue to support him and help him as he recovers from his injury. At this point, we'll move forward to take any questions.
And you mentioned it's a short week. You can't dwell on the past. What was your message to the guys when they showed up this morning?
That message was already said on Sunday night because we had a walkthrough after our meetings, after we looked at the film, and we moved on to our next opponent, and were able to walk through last night. And so yesterday was really the transition day. It was a Sunday and a Monday all in one. And the biggest thing to the guys was we got to trust our preparation and training. And when the lights come on game day, we've got to be able to go out there and operate and execute the way we practice. And obviously, like I said, that starts with me in building those habits into our team, into our program, so that they trust it when they get out there, because we had a really good week of practice, and some of the things that we did well in practice we did not do well in the game. And some of the exact looks, whether it be on offense or defense, that we weren't able to execute.
You mentioned trust and preparation. You have to trust your preparation on game day a couple of times now. What happened that didn't?
Well, we can't just get caught up. We walk, no matter where we play or the stadium we go into, whether it's on the road, at home, or whatever. Every day when we practice, we've practiced a certain way with a certain competitiveness and urgency, that what it is at practice is it's pretty close to what it's going to be in the game. And just knowing that, and the small little details that come up from our communication to our eye control that we play with on both sides of the ball that helps us execute, just trusting those things. And I know I'm not assuming this. I know for dang sure that our guys learned a valuable lesson, and that they can trust that because of how we do practice. And again, I'm excited just coming off the practice field right now of what they went out there and just did, and the buy-in. This team cares a lot. They care a lot, and they want to make Bronco Nation proud, and they understand what it is, and they know the things that we need to improve on here on a short week. And given the challenges, we're facing a team that, schematically on both sides of the ball does some things that is going to take a lot of preparation to get ready for.
So I'm assuming you're saying that what you guys do on practice consistently didn't carry over, at least at the start of the game Saturday night?
Yeah, there was a few things in the start of the game that we could have had better operation with, that would have led to better execution throughout the snap. And it's those small things that come up in the course of a game when you're playing a talented team like that we have to operate on all cylinders. And again, it's nothing huge. It's never nothing huge. It's never as bad, and it's never as good. And that's the thing about this game. It comes down to the very small things that we do consistently and that we create good habits of.
You mentioned after Saturday that Hank and Taylor would be in a competition. Is that still the case?
Yeah, they both went with the Blues today. They both mixed in, and both of them jumped back again. Not only them, but the whole team. They came back, and again, it was a quick turnaround. Just like for the coaches, for them, they got a lot of preparation to do. We're playing a unique defense this week that has been very successful, and is greatly, their personnel, from looking at their first game, their personnel is really good, and they fly around the field, so they know the preparation. And you know what, to be honest with you, sometimes that's a good thing, that you got to jump right back in there and dive into the film room once we evaluated what the things that we need to do a better job of, for ourselves coming out of the last opponent.
The deep dive into Hank Bachman, what happened with Hank on Saturday night?
You know what, the bottom line is, and I'm going to leave it at this, the way we operated there on offense early on in the game was, and the way we executed was no reflection of how the offense had practiced throughout the course of the week. We were battling some things, and you know what, at the end of the day, we felt like it was in the best decision of the team to put Talon in the game and give Talon his opportunity. And again, the biggest thing is, what do we learn from that experience? How do we keep ourselves within the rhythm that we created throughout the week? And again, if we practice a certain way, no matter whether it's here on the blue or we're on the road or whatever it is, we can be playing in a Walmart parking lot, or in the park across the street here, and it doesn't matter. It's all the same. And that's what we will grow forward going from here. If we trust our preparation, we can get those things done.
You said you took a deep dive into some things. It's a short week. What is your priority list going into Friday night then, in terms of getting things better?
Well, going into today, there was a priority list. Into tomorrow, there's a priority list. And as we move on each day, and that's the awesome thing that you can see from the coaches who, we got back here at 4:45 and started yesterday morning, but the organization of which the coaches had yesterday, and the plan they put together to improve ourselves in certain areas, whether it be on defense and obviously playing with better eye control, and some of the play action things and some of the things we can do there as coaches to make sure that we're improving our responsibilities, whether it's from a fundamental or a technical standpoint. We did some really good things on defense. We did some really good things. We got some takeaways and gave ourselves the ball in a good position. Obviously from the offensive standpoint, it is about, trusting, like I said, trusting our preparation so that we can get in rhythm within the beginning of the game and get the sticks moving. And that starts with us too as coaches, right? We've got to make sure that we have a menu that is going to allow our guys offensively to get in rhythm, and I fully trust in the fact that moving forward we're gonna have that, and it's regardless who is at quarterback.
How the whole line played.
You know what, from the standpoint of those guys being able to identify the things they needed to up front, we didn't execute our combinations on our blocks in certain run schemes like we had practiced, and it led to some of the inside penetration that we were talking about at the end of the game, which we knew in the middle of the game. And so now what is it that we do from here if we find ourselves in that situation again, right? So if we talk about things that we are putting on this list, that is something that we're going to grow from, and we know, okay, if we're struggling at a certain position, how are we going to help the offensive line by certain things that we're doing from a play call standpoint, obviously adjustment standpoint, and maybe schematically.
Andy, when it comes to Hank, I mean, he started his entire time here. In high school, he started pretty much his whole career. It's an unfamiliar position for him to be in the position he was in on Saturday. So when it comes to mind, body, and spirit, what is key to moving forward with Hank? Whether it's a play, whether it's a game, whether it's a week, that's life, it's next play mentality. What did we learn from our situation and our experience, and how are we going to move forward? And ultimately, I mean, I'm going to be honest with you, how's he going to lock out all this? How's he going to lock out all this? And I'll be honest with you guys, you can request them all you want, but you're not talking to Hank, you're not talking to Talon. You guys can talk to us because they're focused on how they're going to grow forward. And that's not on anybody else, but for me taking care of our guys and making sure that we're putting them in the space to take care of exactly what you're talking about, because we believe in these guys, whether it be Sam, Talon, or Hank, every one of them, all the way back to, to Mad Dog. So I'm excited about how all those guys came back today, including all their teammates. So we're really looking forward to the challenge again we have this week, and there's no time to dwell on the past, simply learn from it and move forward. This is kind of a silly question, but what does Hank bring to the offense? Why is it important for him to obviously be available for you guys at his best?
You know what, I mean, he brings a whole lot. Like I said, it did not reflect the way he started that game, how he had prepared. He had, I'll be honest with you, all of fall camp wasn't perfect, but the majority of it, he was in rhythm and he was operating. And when there was times, because we are, as an offense, we are playing against a challenging defense in fall camp and our preparation, and even the good on good that we get during each week, because it's not all scout, it's not all the opposing team schemes. We do a fair amount of good on good. He is challenged every single week, and he's shown the ability to come back, if a play doesn't go right. And that's what we got to continue to build on right there, and to get ourselves in rhythm, knowing we don't have to be perfect. Nobody's going to be perfect. I certainly ain't going to be perfect. None of us are going to be perfect in here, but our response needs to be.
Andy, how close was Taylor to Hank after fall camp?
It was, again, we made the adjustment in the game because we felt comfortable enough with Taylor and what he had done throughout fall camp, and the gains that he had made, and his ability to run the offense, because there's a lot that goes into it at that position, from the standpoint of ID in fronts and obviously being able to set protections and run plays and all those things. And so Taylor's growth with all that, has been huge from last year. Can he operate at the level of Hank? Well, Hank's been in, we just talked about how many games that Hank has played in as a Boise State Bronco. From his experiences, he obviously has more. But there's obviously some things that Taylor Green does extremely well, and we're very excited about those things that Taylor does.
Normally speaking, the backup quarterback
Say it again.
Normally speaking, the backup
Right.
quarterback doesn't get a lengthy time. So what did you see in basically the 2/3 of the game that he played? How did he grow the most, and how beneficial do you think it is for his just overall development to have played that much?
Well, I think he got a real idea of all the things that he's, that are put into his environment every day in terms of his preparation, because he got to experience it, right? He got to go on the field and understand, why does Coach Plow make such a huge emphasis about this, this, and this? He was able to go in there and operate and say, like, well, okay, I see why that comes up all the time. I see why he's, my coach is so concerned about this, because when you're out there and the coach isn't right behind you, helping you operate like he is in practice, or he's not yelling from the sideline when you're in an arena where you can't hear, he understands now some of those things from an operation standpoint, and then from an execution standpoint of staying on time, with it. Obviously, there are a few plays there in the pass game that he was able to extend with his legs, which was awesome. That's the element that Taylor Green has that, there's not a lot of quarterbacks, especially on our roster, that have that ability to extend plays with their legs the way he's capable of.
When the offensive line is, having some struggles, is there a bigger benefit of having a mobile quarterback?
I think there's always a benefit of having a mobile quarterbacks, but there's also a benefit of the experience of a quarterback. So finding that balance within and creating that experience and creating that growth, is obviously where we're working to get to. TG, whether it's in the run game, he brings another element to the field. I think we saw some runs out there in the run game that, support his athletic ability and what we think of him that way. Obviously, within the pass game, we've got to continue to grow. That's in the pass game, we've made strides, but we have to continue to grow and understand not only the progressions of which we are operating through on different route combinations, but setting protections and all those things as well.
You mentioned Hank on Saturday night of, that he wasn't going through his progressions, that he was thrown into double coverage and stuff. Is that possible to fix in 4 days?
Yeah, he did it in practice.
The traditional running game obviously was a struggle with Ashton and George. It's an obvious answer, but when that wasn't going well, how much harder did that make things on the quarterbacks to pass?
Yeah, there's no question. The run game always starts up front. It always starts up front, BJ. And to be able to get the run game going opens up everything, Look at the other side of the ball, okay? Us stopping the run, obviously then the pass plays that come off the run game. That's football. So to be able to establish the run game, which is going to be a huge challenge this week with the fronts and the movements and all the things and the pressures that we get, but week in and week out, that's what it's going to be. It's got to be collectively, again, guys, executing the certain blocking combinations, working together, making sure that we're communicating at the line of scrimmage and staying on track that way. And confidence breeds mentality. We got to play with some mentality up front.
I know that, K. County played his first meaningful football in a very, very long time on Saturday, but how do you feel K. County did?
You know, we struggle a little bit interiorly of our offensive line, and where we grow forward from that, I'm very, very confident that, you know, as one of the leaders of our team, that we will build forward on that. And K. County, we love what he does. We love who he is. We love the impact he has on this team. And I'm very, very confident, not only in him, but our overline as a whole, and how we will grow forward, you know, moving forward from this. But yeah, I mean, it was his first time playing in a year. So, you know, we're looking forward to him and how he's going to continue to progress over the course of the year.
He played his first game in nickel. What'd you see out of him out there?
You know, he had some really good fits in the run. He did some nice things adjusting in his underneath coverage to the certain game plan things that have shown to be very difficult from that offense to be able to handle. We've got to make sure that we continue to improve on the amount of match man that we're playing on the slot wide receiver. But we're overall, I mean, I thought he flew around and played well. There was a reverse that came back that he read, and he worked his way back out to set an edge there at midfield and made some really good tackles in the open field. I think overall, in terms of tackling, our defense tackled really well. They tackled physical. That's a week-to-week deal, though. Just because we did it well last week doesn't mean we're going to do it well again this week if we're not working at it. And so I felt like, you know, especially some of the open field tackles he had, he did a good job.
Go back to offensive line real quick. How do you feel Mason did in his first, you know, college game? And not talking too specifically about Ben, because I know you probably won't go into it too far. Last year, he was one of your best run blockers. Like, if you go back and look at the grades and whatnot,
yeah.
What does he bring to the table at that position too? Yeah,
so I mean, obviously Mason was in there for the first time with the start in Ben's absence, and we're looking forward to getting Ben back. But Mason, we're excited about him as a young O lineman. You know, to jump on that stage and to be able to jump in there and compete. I'm sure there's a huge learning experience that he got from it, and how he's going to be able to apply that and how he moves forward. But Mason's going to be an unbelievable offensive lineman for us, and we're just so lucky too that not only the coaches that he has around him, but the older O linemen that he has around him, they believe in him, they love him, they know what he's going to become too. It's just, you know, him staying consistent, persistent with the amount of growth that needs to take place to become that guy, you know, that we know he can be.
Gene, Ferguson, Reynolds, and Jonah didn't have their best game on Saturday. I mean, what do you kind of attribute those struggles to, and how do you get them back on track?
Yeah, you know, just the same thing that we talked about, trusting in our preparation and how we do things in practice. And and again, it starts with me, you know, making sure that these guys understand the tempo and the certain looks and reps we get in practice are set in place to make sure that we have the confidence it's going to be very similar in the game. And you know what, I'm extremely confident in how they move forward from here, especially after what I just saw on the field today.
Back on the secondary, obviously had some picks, but also gave up some extent, you know, big passes.
We got to play better with our eyes. You're right, BJ. We did some really good things in the drop back pass game. Some extremely good things for an offense that is shown to be extremely explosive in the drop back pass. We've got to do a much better job with our eyes in the run in the pass schemes that come off run looks, which we're going to get tested with that right from the jump with this offense that we're playing this week. It is going to be the same, and you know what? We made that very clear. This is what we need. This is going to be a huge challenge coming out of something that we've pinpointed that we know we can be better at and that we must be better at. And again, there was a huge emphasis on that, and our guys are great. The things that we emphasize and that they know that we must do, they will do it because they care, and they're very coachable. Hold on real quick, Bob.
What do you see in them, and what do you think are their strengths, and what will the defense need to do to take on that?
Yeah, so the run game and like I said, some of the it's a variety of spread with some of the traditional pistol or gun triple looks that they've had in the past. We see some speed on the field. We see an O-line that looks different from last year. And obviously they got a transfer quarterback that's come in to operate their offense. And much like Talon, he obviously can do some things with his legs. He can throw the ball. He can throw the ball down the field. He can handle the drop back pass game. So it is going to be it's going to take the film study that we need to put in a short amount of time so that we make sure that we understand what we're getting based on certain formations and things like that.
Coach
Mike.
Plow gets a lot of criticism out there in the public land for play calling and everything on down. When you guys do your self-scout and have conversations, how do you see it?
You know what, Mike? I mean, from the standpoint of we can always do better. It's always on us, okay? Obviously, we don't pay attention to what anybody says and all that, but Mike, it's always on us. It's on me. It starts with me and making sure that we have a plan set into place, and then being able to see that plan come to life at practice and seeing how our guys operate, whether it be in the run game in the O-line, it's protections that go along with pass plays to make sure it's all coming together. That starts with me. That's on me, you know, number one. So I believe in the offense without a doubt because I've seen the troubles that it's given our defense throughout camp. And I got full confidence in our guys, starting from the center all the way out to the Z wide receiver and the quarterbacks that are capable of driving this bus right along because I know how they're getting coached. I know the things that they're doing. So, you know, from that standpoint, I don't jump in too much of that. It's all about us and what are we doing efficiently? How are we teaching it? Where can we grow and improve? And then obviously what suits the personnel the best.
With George, we see what he can do in space. How crucial is it to the lifeblood of his game, you know, to give him some space? Because a number of his carries, I mean,
there wasn't much. No, and so exactly. We're talking about personnel, okay, and getting personnel the ball or putting in our personnel in the best situation offensively to be able to let them do what they do. And whether it's George or our wide receivers or Riley or Tyneal or any of these guys, Kurt, getting them the ball. There's specific plans to get certain guys the ball in certain scenarios. And we've got to be able to get our guys into those situations, and then we've got to execute those situations. But we know what it is when George touches the ball, and especially when he's in space. So being able to generate those situations and those opportunities is huge.
What about the New Mexico defense? Long, coordinating, what are their strengths? There are certain players that really stand out. What do you expect from them?
They did a really good job. It's a lot. The scheme is the same. They did a really good job disguising in their first game. They did it, you know, those guys got experience now, being there with coach. And obviously Rocky Long is one of the best defense coordinators in this game. There's a lot of people that have poached his defense. They up front, their personnel and how fast and physical they played. Their linebackers, you're going to see a lot of movement from their linebackers, front adjustments and changing up windows underneath. And you can just see the overall confidence they have in their defense being in it this year and just watching their first game.
In terms of letting the quarterbacks compete, at what point in the week do you guys need to make a decision for game plan purposes and all that?
Yeah, they'll tell us.
With DJ, I mean, Kerry Laser talked to him after the game, didn't talk too much about himself. You know, that was he got a lot of run in that game, had double-digit tackles. What do you think about DJ Schramm's performance?
You know what? Like we said all along, there's a guy right there that trusted his preparation and his training. We asked, well, what did he do to deserve that job? What he did the other night. Him and Zeke, they both played really well.
Your linebackers, and that was kind of like an area that, I mean, we talked a lot about because
We thought it was going to be a weakness, just say it, right? We thought it was going to be a weakness, but you know what? Those guys have prepared and trained a certain way, and then they went out there and played exactly the way they've been practicing. And now there's plenty of other examples, too, within that. There's guys that have been playing really well, and they went out there and played. I know we were here to talk about because we didn't accomplish our mission last week. We didn't win the game. We didn't do certain things well. But make no mistake, there's a ton of guys that went out there on that field and did some really good things. Some of them first-time players, some of them coming back for their second year. And that's why I say the experience for our guys to be able to grow from that and understand, we need to do what we do and be who we are.
From a wide
receiver standpoint, I know the O-line and a lot of other stuff comes into it, but in terms of the downfield, like vertical passing game, what did you see in terms of the receivers trying to get some separation?
Yeah, there's no doubt. We part of it too, is what goes with that is protecting the quarterback, so he has time to get to these downfield route combinations. So it is a plan. It is part of the plan of emphasis going forward of starting with protections. How do we put ourselves in a situation to get the ball down the field vertically, and not just in drop back pass, but in other areas as well.
Coach, New Mexico's going to probably be prepping for 2 quarterbacks. You've been a defensive coordinator. You maybe had situations where you prepped for 2 quarterbacks. What type of advantage is that for you, and is that probably why you're not going to name a starter this week?
It's not. It's it's hard to prep for 2 guys, but at the same time too, I think we talked about it earlier. If there's a singled out 2 in a normal week of prep, they don't get as much reps. We need both these guys to get reps to keep getting better. We need both of them to keep improving in certain areas. Both different. They're both different guys, but they both have their areas where we need to continue to improve. And how we will get that done is by ensuring that we get the right amount of reps with the right groups so that we can move forward. And I know our guys have full confidence, just like we do in both of these guys. Again, some of the things that went on early in the game wasn't just on the quarterback now. It wasn't just on the quarterback. It was on other guys too that have done things in practice. And so collectively as a whole, it's on all of us. And I'll say it starts with me to make sure that we ensure that we are playing all together and handling our 111th. And what we did today at practice showed that these guys have a sense of urgency to do so.
And you look at, we go back to turnovers that you guys caused. So much turnovers is just taking advantage of a moment, right? Like not dropping an interception or falling on a fumble. How impressed with you were that? And if you get 3 in a game moving forward, you probably like your chances, I assume.
Yeah, I mean, it's always a huge focal point, the ball, on both sides of the ball, for obvious reasons. We didn't do a great job on the offense side taking care of the ball, and we see what that causes. But at the end of the day, this is football, and if you have the ball in your hands, you're scoring. So we need to take care of the ball whenever we're touching it, and if the other team has it, we need to do our very best to get it back, and we need to have fun doing that. That's football, taking it from the other team, and obviously getting it in the end zone when we have it. And regardless of whether we're on offense, special teams, or defense, and we have the ball in our hands.
Do you prefer kind of just picking one guy and going with them, or do you see a scenario where both guys could get playing time?
We'll have to see.
New Mexico's a team you guys have never lost to, I believe. Usually you probably having a conversation with the team to make sure they don't look past this team. But given how last week went, is that maybe different this year? Is this team kind of more hungry to go out there and make a statement against this team?
We know this, that every single week with every team on our schedule, we have to be our best. That's plain and simple. We have to be our best. We need to know the other team from a standpoint of what do they do in all 3 phases, but at the end of the day, it's about us being our best. Of how we prepare, and then how we're able to go out there and execute on game day because of how we prepared.
You guys talked about George returning punts last week, and then Steph Cobbs was out there. Is that the plan moving forward to have him out?
We'll have to see.
Last question.
Eric McAllister and
Yeah.
Jay Whiting are going to back up Billy now at X.
Yeah.
What do you see out of them? And then I don't know if you didn't mention Markel, but he's not on the depth chart, so there's no update there.
Yeah, we're in a further evaluation with that. We'll let you guys know what that looks like, guys.
But Shea and Eric, what do they bring to the table?
Oh, man, Eric McAllister has been explosive. Now it's his turn. It's his opportunity as well as Shea. Shea has built his role on this team, not only on offense, but in special teams and stuff like that. And they've both, done some really good things on offense. Eric McAllister has a lot to grow in, but he's shown to be more consistent. And as long as he can be consistent with what it takes to be an everyday player at this level, Eric McAllister can help this team. Good. Thank you, guys.